this for you. Amen. Listen. Hey, everybody, gather near. The doctor's in the house, so lend him your ear. The things he can say might even make your day. He might even help your pain go away. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house.
Ladies and gentlemen, the doctor is in the house. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Ron, unfiltered, uncensored, and definitely unapologetic. This podcast and the future ones, we're going to delve deeply into the world of health and wellness. And in today's episode, we will explore the fascinating topic of inflammation and its role as the root cause of many diseases. And we're going to discuss the factors that cause it and some of the problems that we'll have to deal with. So welcome everybody on this 4th of July, Independence Day, when we celebrate the signing of the Declaration of Independence and enjoy the benefits of that in the best country in the world. So I've gotten some good feedback from our discussions on mitochondria and its relationship to the thyroid, and mainly its relationship to energy. Because I hear mostly where I live is I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I'm not thinking as good as I should, I have brain fog, I am aching all over. So we have to try and find the cause of it, the root cause, not just treat a symptom. And I'm bringing you back to what Hippocrates wrote. If you are not your own doctor, you are a fool. And he was right. He said it a long time ago, and it's even more true today. Nobody knows your body better than yourself. What you need to heal. More than anything, you know it. That's why Hippocrates wrote that. If you are not your own doctor, you are a fool. And, are we really healthy? Are we, just because we feel good and we're on 10 different medications, and maybe one medication is taken because it's putting a Band-Aid over the side effects of a prior medication? But it's coming down that all disease is caused by a deficiency of energy or our inability to convert our food into energy so that we can function properly. And what's the buzzword that we've been talking about on Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored? That buzzword is mitochondrial dysfunction. But you know what? It leaves everybody confused. What the heck is it? How are we going to solve it? Well, we started that last week because it's the canary in the coal mine. And the elephant in the room is hypothyroidism. And we talked about how your thyroid and your mitochondria are interrelated. We talked about taking your body temperature. But now let's delve a little further. And let's talk a little bit about microwave frequencies, like from cell phones, how they can cause mitochondrial dysfunction. And the mitochondria has its own DNA called nuclear DNA, and that can be damaged from the electromagnetic fields. And we know excessive exposures to cell phones and Wi-Fi networks have been linked to chronic diseases such as cardiac arrhythmias. Atrial fibrillation is a cardiac arrhythmia. Anxiety, depression, autism, Alzheimer's disease, and infertility, and devices that continually emit electromagnetic field radiation at levels that damage your mitochondria include what? Your cell phone towers, your routers, your modems, the baby monitors, all these smart devices in our homes, our smart meters, our smart appliances. And I'll let you figure out how many zeros to put on this. EMF exposure has increased about 1 quintillion times over the past 100 years. And people are experiencing impacts from it, but they have no appreciation of the damage it's causing until it's too late. Because nobody is making the connection to the root cause of that EMF is causing damage. And one of the damages is your brain, huh? Is your cell phone secretly frying it? You know, if there was a radiation leak at our local power plant, they'd evacuate the town. Pack your bags, put on a moon suit and get out of here. But you know, we have this exposure in our pockets and it's zapping our privates. We put it next to our head and it's pelting your brain. Sometimes people talk on this phone for hours at a time. Cell phones are emitting, ladies and gentlemen, far more radiation than anyone's let on, and many times higher than the FCC's supposed safe limits. Just about every phone that I look into emits more radiation than you think. Well, remember, distance is your friend. And studies have linked electromagnetic field, radio frequency, radiation to brain tumors, sleep disorders, headaches, memory problems, hearing loss, reproductive issues. So be careful where you put that cell phone. You know, use hands-free set. Use a speakerphone. And you know, EMF causes inflammation. And inflammation is known as the body's natural response to injury or infection, and it is essential for our immune system. However, when inflammation becomes chronic or systemic, it wreaks havoc on our health. And now the researchers are believing that chronic inflammation is the core of numerous diseases, including cardiovascular, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, even cancer and dementia. Non-ionizing radiation, EMF. And there are studies that suggest that prolonged exposure to EMF may trigger an inflammatory response in the body. And that's how we get the ill health adverse effects. We don't think about it. Nobody makes the connection. The dots are not connected. But this inflammation causes mitochondrial damage. And we've talked about this the past couple of weeks. Because chronic inflammation impairs mitochondrial function. If we don't have good mitochondrial function, we have decreased energy production. And remember, mitochondrial dysfunction itself has been implicated in neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So EMF, we'll come back to that when we talk a little bit about dementia. But I had a guest on my program 5 years ago who talked about having a cell phone up to your head. It opens up the blood-brain barrier and allows toxic materials, and she was an expert in mercury, and how it could let mercury into your brain. Those of you that know Charles Dickens know about the Mad Hatter. It's not a good situation. So we got to be careful of our electromagnetic fields, huh? So what other factors can cause inflammation? Well, toxins. And that includes heavy metals. They are a significant contributor to chronic inflammation. Lead, mercury, or arsenic can accumulate in our bodies over time. And it is in our waters. We can look at Environmental Working Group, EWG.org, and check out the water in your local area. It'll tell you how contaminated or not contaminated it is. But we're exposed to contaminated water, food in our environment. These toxins, again, disrupt normal cellular function and activate inflammation. And probably the onset of chronic diseases. Remember, the mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cells, and they're responsible for generating energy in the form of ATP. When inflammation persists, it impairs that function. It leads to a decreased energy production. The mitochondrial dysfunction has been implicated, as I said, in many, many diseases. So we have EMF. We have toxins. We have our diet causing inflammation. Let's just talk a little bit about dementia. Dementia is a broad term. It's used to describe a wide range of cognitive impairments. I heard about a young woman that has frontal lobe dementia. 50 years old. Definitely has genetic implications, but it also is associated with inflammation. But one of the most common forms is Alzheimer's dementia. That's about 60 to 80% of the cases. And guess what? The evidence is suggesting that inflammation plays a critical role in its development and its progression. And studies are showing that chronic inflammation in the brain can lead to the accumulation of amyloid plaques, tau tangles, that's those TAU that they look for. They're the hallmark features of Alzheimer's disease. And inflammatory responses trigger the release of cytokines and other inflammatory molecules, leading to neuroinflammation. Our neurons get damaged. We have decreased cognitive function. And here's where it gets exciting, because we talked about methylene blue last week. Methylene blue research looking as a potential treatment for this inflammation-related health issue. Methylene blue is a medication that has a long history. I think it was the first patented medication. Came out as a dye. But now we're seeing studies that it has the potential to treat various conditions. It is the base molecule for hydroxychloroquine. It has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. So it's a great candidate, for chronic inflammation, I would say, especially in the brain. And some research, get this, is suggesting that it can help reduce the formation of those amyloid plaques and tau tangles. So it would seem to be a good fit for people with that type of dementia. I think that's really exciting. That's why I want to bring it to you today, even though it's the 4th of July. So we have to have an overall general systemic approach to reducing inflammation. So we can decrease not only the effects of dementia and not getting it at all, but other chronic diseases. And if you're over 65, they estimate over 80% of people have some form of chronic disease. So are we really healthy? So we have to talk about diet and exercise and stress management. I didn't mention any drugs except a dye called methylene blue. And you're only hearing this type of information on podcasts like mine, Dr. Ron Unfiltered, Uncensored, and some other podcasts that do not accept any money from any pharmaceutical companies. We just want people to get better. So you'll hear that on this program. And I'm going to keep it coming as long as I can. So let's just talk about a few things. Now, we talked about EMF. Turn off the routers at night if you can. Turn off the circuit breakers in your bedroom. Don't keep that phone next to your bed. And we have to talk a little bit about toxins. I tried to tell you and explain how the skin is the largest organ of the body. Be careful what you put on your skin, all those chemicals that they have in there, especially the perfumes that make you smell good. But I have to bring you two things that just came out this week. One came out from the Imperial College of London. And they're sounding an alarm about another environmental risk. And this has to do with car tires. They're saying particles from car tires, which are made from toxic chemicals to start with, leach out into the ecosystem, finding their way into oceans, rivers, and the air and our food supply. Tire wear particles pollute the environment, the air we breathe, the water runoff from roads, and have compounding effects on waterways and agriculture. Even if our vehicles eventually become powered by electricity instead of fossil fuels, we will still have harmful pollution from the vehicles because of tire wear, says the lead author. I've talked about titanium dioxide. There's so many things that, we have to try and mitigate ourselves. No one's going to do it for us. So we have to have some kind of detox program in our daily routine. Those that have listened know that I am a very strong believer in zeolite, ultra zeolite. I've had patients and I have friends and listeners who had their mercury fillings removed without proper precautions, but took zeolite every day. You buy that on the internet, zeolite.com. And their mercury levels went down and disappeared. And they did the hair study test to prove it, because you won't find mercury in the blood. You know where it goes to hide? It goes into your brain. But the zeolite has to be part of your normal routine, as does zymescence, a systemic enzyme. You can go to Podbean or BitChute and look up Dr. Wong's lectures on zymescence and systemic enzymes. It's the strongest one in the world. And you don't make any more after age 27. And by 27, you use up about 25% of them. So you have 75% to last you for however. But when you run out of them, you die. So these dangerous toxins, it's a shame to say, but we're exposed to them everywhere and every day. And I don't see things changing too soon. So we have to support our body's detoxification. And we need to do it gently and regularly. That also includes saunas, huh? Because that'll help get rid of the toxins out of the deep tissues and fat. You know why a lot of people can't lose weight? Because they have too many toxins in their fat and their body doesn't want to release it. Because they know as you release toxins, you get sick. You have something called a Herxheimer reaction. It's not fun, but it's part of getting well again. So let's protect ourselves against glyphosate. That particle, that compound that is found in Roundup. It replaces glycine in our bodies. Can give us cancer. Can give us weak collagen, more prone to tears of our tendons. So glyphosate is similar to glycine. It replaces glycine. The body can't tell the difference. And glycine is an essential amino acid. It not only has to do with collagen formation, it's a precursor to our master antioxidant, which is glutathione. And glyphosate just mimics that darn glycine. So you have to take extra glycine every day. And just today, Mercola came out with a statement about supporting energy production and reducing inflammation in the brain are the two most important factors to prevent and treat Alzheimer's disease. So we're on the right path here. We're on the right path, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say about another article that came out this week. Aspartame. That's the equal, right? Thousands of products have it. It finally now is to be labeled as a possible human carcinogen. Remember, I told you diet is spelled D-I-E-T. Forget the T. It will cause you to die. That's why we have told our patients when we were in practice and now on the podcast, get off of the diet soda bandwagon. They're toxic, they're corrosive, and you won't lose weight because it tricks your body into wanting more sugar. Some people use the saying, the substance will make you gain weight faster than a hot air balloon. But the real science is starting to come out now. So this month, it is noted that the World Health Organization Cancer Research Arm is set to classify aspartame as a possibly carcinogenic to humans. At last. We don't have anything to do with the WHO. They're sort of a corrupt organization. But maybe they got this one right. At last. So I don't think some of our big boys, Coke and Mars and whatever, are going to be too happy about this. So I don't want to talk about aspartame because I've talked about it. Those of us that are familiar with type of Skid Row clients know that, they drink Sterno, and that's methanol, and that's what the darn aspartame changes into in your body. How could that ever be good for you? And formaldehyde can't be good for you, right? So you want to damage your mitochondria? There you go. And one last thing before we go today. You know how you say, I feel it in my gut, something's wrong. Or you feel like, I really like this guy, I feel it inside. Because as I've said, our body has two brains, one in our head and the other in our gut. Well, this one in our gut can really get messed up by electromagnetic fields, because that's how the bacteria, the good microbiome, communicate with each other, and EMF can destroy them. So we need to have a superior interior, and that's why, beside the zymescence and the we need a good probiotic like megaspore. And the word that was escaping me was zeolite. Zymescence, zeolite, and megaspore to keep our gut happy, to have a superior interior. Critical for our health because of that connection between our gut and our brain. And our gut dysfunction can contribute to that brain dysfunction, that brain fog. But it all goes through the mitochondria, but there is a direct connection. We need to have a healthy, superior interior. So change your gut and you'll change your mood. Well, all that means is keep your microbes in your gut populated. Because of our gut contains so many neurons and neurotransmitters. That's why it's called the second brain. And that main highway that all this travels on is this vagus nerve, a long vagus nerve. And then it has, sympathetic and parasympathetic. We've talked about it. I don't want to confuse the issue today, but it's the longest nerve, and that's how our gut and our brain communicate. I'll leave you with a number, just because you need to know this. Your gut contains 100 million nerve cells, and they line your intestines from your esophagus down to your butt. So when you take a probiotic, think of that you're taking it for your brain. Okay, so just want to leave you with one other thing. If I can find it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to. In order to keep today's program a little short, I'm not giving you everything that I wanted to, but we have to know that inflammation is the root cause of disease, and it affects the mitochondria. The mitochondria are our powerhouses, and that inflammation and mitochondrial dysfunction can lead to diseases of many systems in our body. The one that I mentioned specifically today was dementia. Next week, I will talk about metformin. When I talk about dementia, metformin came into my mind because it can renew neural sheaths. So we'll talk about that. Okay. But when you talk about food, I say have a good diet. The one thing you want to avoid most of all is sugar, because that is the most inflammatory food that you can eat. And now you see the relationship to metformin, huh? Because metformin, it was initially an anti-diabetic drug. But we have to, be careful of the toxins we eat, because if we're not eating farm-raised chicken and organic meat, we have a lot of pesticides and toxins that we're ingesting. We want to be careful of our candies and snacks and baked goods and pastries. The sweetened coffee, make sure it does not have artificial sweetening. Try to eat complex carbohydrates, not simple sugars, not refined wheats, because refined wheats are high in sugar. Okay, so the other thing is, I hate to say this, but farm-raised fish are, I don't want to say the word, but they're not good. They're junk. They're raised under crowded conditions. They're given antibiotics. They're given feed that has dioxin. If they're given a less than optimal diet, they have to give salmon dyes to make them pink again. And they have a lot of inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids. Sure, wild fish has mercury, and that's why we say maybe only eat, fish two times a week or so. You have to be careful even with natural foods, huh? All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Ron, host of Dr. Ron Unfiltered, Uncensored. We'll be back here again next week to talk more about mitochondrial damage, detoxification. Send me an email if you have any questions to docronradio@gmail.com, docronradio@gmail.com. Let your friends and family know about this, and we'll embark on a lot of interesting topics that you're not going to hear anyplace else. You're not going to hear them on any of the mainstream media outlets. And we're going to be talking more about energy medicine, because our body is a symphony orchestra. And when it's out of tune, we are sick. So we want to just talk about how we have to keep our frequencies balanced, because everything is frequencies. Everything has a vibration. And to be at our utmost in energy, we have to harness the power of those frequencies, and we have to let go of the lower energy elements and surround ourselves with the higher energy elements. And we'll talk about that. So thanks for tuning in. Have a rest of a happy 4th of July. And tell your friends and neighbors about Dr. Ron Unfiltered, Uncensored. And we will continue to bring you information not in the mainstream. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey everybody, Dr. Ron's finished for today. I hope you got some good wisdom for what the man had made. If it's all about good health, he's the man you got to see. He has a lot more answers for you. So tune in next week when the doctor is in the house. Or when the doctor is in the house. And let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. So if you have a pain, call the doctor. If you have a strain, call the doctor. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. See you next week.